This video is about an unknown animal terrorizing France, which was later the inspiration of the story Beauty and the Beast. From a Catholic perspective, I find it interesting to wonder what we might have done. Prayer is often the most easily overlooked. Of course, it must also necessitate action. And of course, the question remains, what was the beast? A prehistoric holdover, a hyena or lion? Or something supernatural? Stay to the end, and I will reveal which one I think it could be. Make sure to put your guesses in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking into a pretty chilling mystery, the Beast of Gévaudan. Have you heard of this one?
Oh yeah, the Beast of Gévaudan. It's a classic. It's one of those stories that just captures the imagination, you know? It's got everything, mystery, violence, a little bit the supernatural.
Yeah, exactly. So we're talking 18th century France, right? A remote province called Gévaudan, nestled in the Margeride Mountains. And this wolf-like creature is terrorizing the countryside. I mean, we're talking men, women, children. Nobody was safe.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so scary, right? It wasn't just preying on livestock. This thing was actively hunting people. And the way they described the attacks, it was brutal, like something out of a nightmare.
Totally. And here's the thing. Despite countless hunts and all these different theories, we still don't know for sure what this beast was. Was it a giant wolf, a rogue lion maybe, some kind of hyena, or something even stranger?
Right, and that's what keeps us coming back to these stories, isn't it? The mystery. Right. The fact that we might never have a definitive answer.
So let's start with what we do know. The beast's reign of terror. It lasted for years, and it all began in the summer of 1764 with the death of a 14-year-old girl, Jeanne Brulé.
Yeah, poor Jeanne. She was tending cattle alone in the Marquois forest when the beast attacked. It was a gruesome scene, and it really set off a wave of panic throughout the region.
It's hard to even imagine the fear that people must have felt. I mean, a mysterious predator stalking the countryside, attacking seemingly at random. It must have been terrifying.
Absolutely, and the attacks kept happening. They usually targeted individuals, often women and children, who were out in isolated areas, tending livestock or traveling alone.
And the descriptions of the attacks, they're pretty consistent, right? I mean, they all mention this incredible ferocity, the focus on the head and neck. It sounds like this beast was unlike anything they'd ever seen before.
Right, and that's what fueled all the speculation about its true nature. I mean, was it just a really big wolf, or was it something more exotic, maybe even supernatural?
It's interesting how these stories often reflect the beliefs and anxieties of the time. So in 18th century France, with its strong Catholic faith, it's not surprising that people saw the beast as a possible sign of God's wrath.
Oh, absolutely. The Bishop of Mende actually called for prayers and penance. He urged people to repent for their sins and saw the beast as a manifestation of divine judgment.
So it wasn't just about hunting down a dangerous animal. It was about confronting this perceived spiritual threat. And I imagine that added a whole other layer of complexity to the situation.
Definitely. People were terrified, not just for their physical safety, but also for their souls. I mean, they were living in a time when belief in the supernatural was very real. So the idea of a demonic beast sent to punish them, it's not hard to see how that would grip their imaginations.
Right, it's like this perfect storm of fear and faith. But people weren't just sitting around praying. They were also taking practical steps to protect themselves, right?
Of course. They organized armed escorts for those traveling alone, and communities formed patrols to try and spot the beast before it could attack.
So it was a mix of faith and action, a recognition that they needed both divine protection and earthly solutions to deal with this threat.
Exactly. And as the attacks continued and the fear escalated, it eventually caught the attention of King Louis V. I mean, this wasn't just a local problem anymore. It was a national crisis.
Ah, King Louis V. So the king gets involved. What was his reaction? Was it purely out of concern for his people, or was there also a sense of, this reflecting poorly on him as the ruler?
It was probably a bit of both, right? I mean, a king's authority rested in part on his ability to protect his subjects.
Yeah.
So if there's this unstoppable beast roaming the countryside, killing people, it's going to make him look weak and ineffective.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
So he's got to do something. And what does he do? He sends in the troops, right? Captain Duhamel and his dragoons.
Exactly. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? A whole army against one animal.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that simple, was it?
Not at all. Duhamel and his men were experienced soldiers, but they weren't prepared for this kind of enemy. I mean, the terrain was difficult, dense forests, rugged mountains, and the locals were so terrified that they were often hesitant to cooperate with the soldiers.
It sounds like a logistical nightmare. You've got these soldiers who are trained for traditional warfare, and they're up against this creature that's essentially a phantom. It's lurking in the shadows, striking when you least expect it.
And it's getting bolder. It's not just attacking lone individuals anymore. There are reports of it attacking groups, even confronting armed men. It's like it's not even afraid.
So what does the king do? He doubles down, right? Sends in more troops.
He does, but this time he calls in specialists. He brings in the Denevils, a father and son team who were famous for their wolf hunting skills. And they didn't come alone. They brought a pack of 8 bloodhounds specially trained to track wolves.
So now we're talking serious business. This is no ordinary hunt anymore. This is like the A-team of wolf hunters assembled by the king himself.
Exactly, and they had a plan. They were going to use their knowledge of wolf behavior, their tracking skills, to systematically hunt down the beast.
It sounds like a scene out of a movie. This epic showdown between man and beast. But it wasn't that easy, was it?
No, it wasn't. The beast continued to evade capture. It was always one step ahead, always disappearing back into the wilderness.
So the mystery deepens and the fear continues. And it's around this time that we hear the story of Marie-Jeanne Vallée, the maid of Gévaudan. Have you heard of her?
Oh yeah, Marie-Jeanne, what a story. She was a young servant girl, deeply religious, and she became a symbol of hope during this dark time.
Tell me more about her. What happened?
Well, she was crossing a stream with some other women when the beast suddenly appeared. Most of the women ran away terrified, but Marie-Jeanne, she stood her ground.
She stood her ground against the beast. That's incredible. What does she do?
She had a spear with her, and when the beast lunged at her, she thrust the spear right into its chest.
Wow, what a brave young woman. So she actually managed to fight off the beast.
She did. It was incredible. People saw it as a miracle, a sign of God's protection. And her story spread throughout the region, giving people hope that even this terrifying creature could be defeated.
It's a powerful story, right? This young woman, armed with nothing but her faith and a spear facing down this monstrous beast. It really speaks to the power of courage and belief.
Absolutely. And it gave people something to hold on to in the midst of all this terror. But the fight wasn't over. The beast was still out there.
So the Denevils, they couldn't catch it. What happened next? Did the king give up?
No, he was determined to put an end to this. So he sent his own personal arquebus bearer, Francois Antoine, to Gévaudan. Antoine was a renowned marksman known for his skill and his determination.
So he was like the king's secret weapon. This expert sharpshooter sent in to finish the job that the others couldn't.
Exactly. And Antoine, he took his mission very seriously. He studied the reports, he talked to the locals, he scoured the terrain, and after months of searching, he finally found it.
He found the beast.
He did. He tracked it down and killed a large wolf that matched the descriptions given by survivors. It was a huge victory, and Antoine returned to Paris a hero. The wolf was even put on display as a trophy.
So finally, the beast of Gévaudan was dead. The terror was over. People could breathe a sigh of relief.
You'd think so, right? But unfortunately, it wasn't that simple.
Oh no. There's more.
There's always more with these stories, isn't there? The thing is, the story doesn't quite end there. You see, shortly after Antoine's triumphant return, the attack started up again.
Wait, what? You're kidding. The beast came back.
It did. It came back with a vengeance.
Can you imagine the relief people must have felt thinking it was finally over, only to have that terror come rushing back? It's like something out of a nightmare.
Exactly. And it really shook people's faith. I mean, they thought they'd been delivered from this evil only to find themselves right back where they started.
So what was the reaction? Were people just terrified? Or was there anger too, like a sense of betrayal?
Oh, there was definitely anger. People felt like they've been lied to, tricked into believing it was over. And of course, there were questions. Was it the same beast? Had it somehow survived Antoine's attack? Or was this a new beast even more terrifying than the first?
It's like the mystery just got a whole lot deeper and a lot more unsettling. Did anyone have any explanations? What was the church saying about all this?
Some people started to say that maybe Antoine had killed the wrong wolf, that there was more than one beast terrorizing the region. Others clung to the idea that the original beast had somehow cheated death. Maybe it was some kind of demon or a creature with supernatural powers.
So the rumors and speculation must have been running wild. I bet the king wasn't too happy about this whole thing coming back to bite him, so to speak.
Oh, he was furious. He declared victory, sent Antoine back to Paris a hero, and now it all looked like a sham, like he'd misled everyone. But what could he do? The beast was back, and something had to be done.
So did he send Antoine back to Gévaudan to finish the job properly?
Not this time. He authorized a new hunt, of course. But he was hesitant to pour more resources into what was starting to look like a lost cause. So this time the hunt was mainly led by local figures, people who knew the land and the beast better than any outsider could.
So it's like the king saying, all right, you guys deal with this mess. I've washed my hands of it.
Pretty much. But it's understandable in a way. He'd already spent a fortune on this hunt, and it had backfired spectacularly. He was probably worried about appearing weak and decisive.
And from a practical standpoint, it probably made sense to let the locals take the lead. They were the ones who had to live with this threat day in and day out. They knew the terrain, the beast's habits.
Right. And there was one local hunter who really stepped up during this time, a man named Jean Chastel. Have you heard of him?
Jean Chastel?
Yeah.
The name rings a bell. He's the one who finally killed the beast, right?
That's right. He's the one who brought an end to the terror. But even that part of the story is shrouded in mystery.
Oh, really? What do you mean?
Well, Chastel was a bit of a loner, very devout, known for his knowledge of the local woods and for his piety. Some people even whispered that he had some kind of special connection to the spiritual realm.
Okay, now that's intriguing. So we're adding a layer of folklore and superstition to this already mysterious tale.
Yeah.
What was it about Chastel that made people think he had these special powers?
Well, for one thing, he was a very skilled hunter. He knew the Gévaudan region like the back of his hand, but there were also rumors that he practiced some kind of ancient magic or that he used blessed silver bullets.
Okay, so we're getting into some really interesting territory here. It's like the story is shifting from a straight-up hunt for a dangerous animal into something more mystical, more symbolic.
Exactly. And that's what makes the Beast of Gévaudan so fascinating. It's a story that blurs the lines between reality and legend, between the natural and the supernatural.
So tell me about Chastel's encounter with the beast. How did he finally manage to kill this creature that had eluded so many others for so long?
Well, the story goes that in June of 1767, on the slopes of Montmouchet, Chastel came face to face with the beast. And with a single shot from his musket, he brought it down.
One shot. That's pretty incredible after all the effort that had gone into hunting this thing down. Did anyone ever figure out what kind of creature it actually was?
That's the thing. Even in death, the Beast of Gévaudan refused to give up its secrets.
What do you mean? They examined the body?
We did. They transported it to the Château de Besque for a proper autopsy, but the results were inconclusive. The body was already partially decomposed, so it was difficult to say for certain what species it belonged to.
So even after all that, after all the terror and the hunts, the true identity of the beast remained a mystery.
That's right. And it's a mystery that persists to this day.
It's amazing how a story from centuries ago can still hold such power. It's like the Beast of Gévaudan has become a symbol for the unknown, for the things that we can't explain or control.
Exactly. And I think that's why it continues to fascinate us. It's a reminder that there are still mysteries in the world, things that defy logic and reason.
So where do we go from here? We've got this terrifying beast, a mysterious hero, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. What are some of the theories that people have put forward over the years to explain the Beast of Gévaudan?
Well, there's the usual suspects, right? People have always wondered if it was just a really big wolf, like maybe a subspecies or something that was larger and more aggressive than the typical wolves in the area.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wolves were pretty common in Europe back then.
Right? Oh, yeah, definitely. And there are records of wolves attacking and killing people throughout history. So it's not a stretch to imagine that maybe there was just this one particularly large and ferocious wolf that was responsible for all the chaos.
But then how do you explain all the eyewitness accounts that describe something more unusual, something that didn't quite look or act like a regular wolf?
Right. That's where things get interesting. Some people have suggested that it could have been a hybrid, maybe a wolf-dog cross, or even a wolf cross with something more exotic.
A hybrid. Now that's a spooky thought. Imagine a creature that combines the strength and ferocity of a wolf with the intelligence, or even the aggression of a domesticated animal.
Exactly. It's definitely a creepy possibility, and it would explain some of the more unusual behaviors that people reported, like the beast's apparent fearlessness, its ability to evade capture for so long.
But is there any actual evidence to support the hybrid theory?
Well, it's hard to say for sure without any DNA evidence from the beast itself, but there are some historical accounts that mention people breeding wolves with dogs or even with other wild animals, so it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility.
And then, of course, you have the more exotic theories,
Yeah.
right? The idea that the beast could have been a lion or a hyena that escaped from a menagerie or something.
Yeah, that's always a popular one, especially since there were traveling menageries in Europe at the time and escapes did happen. But again, there's no real evidence to support this theory. And lions and hyenas aren't exactly native to the Gévaudan region, so how would one have gotten there and survived for so long?
Yeah, those are good points. It seems like every theory has its own set of problems, and there's just not enough solid evidence to definitively prove any of them.
Exactly. And that's part of what makes the story so enduring, right? It's a mystery that might never be fully solved.
Yeah.
And that leaves room for speculation, imagination.
Right. And it allows us to explore not just the history of this event, but also the psychology of fear, the way our minds try to make sense of the unknown. And in a way, I think that's even more interesting than knowing for sure what the Beast of Gévaudan actually was.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. This one creature, this mystery, has captured the imagination of people for centuries. It's inspired books, movies, countless theories and debates. And it all goes back to that fundamental human desire to understand the world around us, to make sense of the things that scare us, the things we don't understand.
It's a reminder that even in our modern world, with all our technology and scientific advancements, there are still mysteries out there, things that defy explanation. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's important to have those reminders that we don't know everything, that there's still a sense of wonder and awe to be found in the unknown.
I think you're right. And on that note, I think we'll leave our listeners to ponder the mystery of the Beast of Gévaudan. What do you think lurked in those French forests? Was it a creature of nature or something more sinister, something that we can't even comprehend? And if you were investigating this case today, what approach would you take? What kind of evidence would you look for?
Yeah, those are great questions, ones that I hope our listeners will continue to explore and debate. So until next time, keep those minds curious. And remember, the world is full of mysteries just waiting to be uncovered.
And who knows, maybe one of you will be the one to finally crack the case of the Beast of Gévaudan.
See you next time, folks.
Take care.
I believe the beast to be a Barbary lion. The Barbary lion, also known as the Atlas lion, is the lion species that went extinct in northern Africa. This majestic lion was once native to the Atlas Mountains and surrounding regions, including Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. The Barbary lion was known for its impressive size and distinctive long, dark mane that extended over its shoulders and belly. It was driven to extinction in the wild due to habitat loss, hunting, and human conflict. The last confirmed wild Barbary lion was likely killed in the early 20th century, though some reports suggest they may have survived in remote areas until the mid-20th century. Today, some lions in captivity are thought to be descendants of the Barbary lion, particularly in zoos in Morocco, where attempts have been made to preserve their lineage. However, the genetic purity of these lions is still debated. In this case, it was either a female lion or a juvenile that was brought to Europe as part of a royal or noble menagerie and escaped. What do you think?